How many Bad Girls Guidebooks were there? Have there been?
There were 4. The Bad Girls Guide to the Open Road, which was about road tripping, and the Bad Girls Guide to Getting What You Want, which was sort of the, you know, getting a job, getting a date, getting a life, kind of that was sort of the foundation. And that second book actually kind of gave me a chance to go back and explain a little bit more about the bad girl philosophy. And then the third book was the Bad Girls Guide to the Party Life, and then the Bad Girls Guide to Getting Personal. And then there were like 25, 30 ancillary products, an embarrassing number of pink bad girl products.
But that's something that you, that you really kind of built your publishing empire around, is that you kind of made sure that you own that Bad Girls brand rather than handing it off to a publisher. Is that right?
Well, in theory, yes. I was working with Chronicle Books on that, and they have not only a publishing division, but a gift division. So it was very easy for us to work together to create a number of other different types of products, from postcards to calendars to photo albums to journals, lots of different types of things. But ultimately, I own the copyright, but they own the products. They were the manufacturer. So, you know, and they still are basically in control of what happens. So I'm not sure I would recommend this as a business model to other aspiring authors.
I gotcha. Now, there's also a website, and we've been speaking with a number of the authors on Get Lit about optioning their books into film and television. And in most cases, it's been, well, maybe something's going to happen. In the case of the Bad Girls Guide, there was a television show starring another best-selling author, Jenny McCarthy, in the lead. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with the Bad Girls Guide television show?
That happened in, let's see, that was in 2005, actually. And I had sort of the best of experiences and the worst of experiences in that I wanted to be involved in the adaptation, partly because I've always wanted to write for film and television, and also because the Bad Girls Guides, there's no plot and there are no characters, so there's this wide open playing field for adaptation, and I didn't want it to really be mishandled. Ultimately, it was mishandled, and I was there in the room every day. So, but it was a great experience to start with. The development was really fun. I was partnered with a couple of other experienced writers. And instead of me just nominally getting to write the pilot, which was what I had hoped for, they actually were super, really supportive and taught me and worked with me. So it was a really great learning experience. We wrote a funny pilot. Jenny McCarthy was cast in it. She was one of the unexpected pleasures of, while she's not a gifted actor, she's a great personality, and she was a lovely person to work with. She's not necessarily an actor that women relate to. I think men sort of like her more than women, so it was an interesting choice. But after we got picked up, so we got an order from UPN, which is no longer around. I like to think of the Bad Girls Guide TV show as one of the shows that killed UPN, because I think it was their last season that was around. But we got a pickup order, and then they always test the pilots, and then you go back and make some changes. Well, one of the people who didn't test that well was Jenny McCarthy, so we had to make a lot of changes. And somehow during that process, the 2 women who were the other co-creators, whom I really enjoyed working with, got fired. I still don't really know why. And then the project circled the drain for 3 or 4 months. And like anything, especially in that business, you know, if you lose the momentum, you're toast. It's over. So I was just going for long dog walks, sort of, you know, thinking about what might have happened. And then at the last minute, they got another showrunner on board, and we actually went forward. We produced 6 episodes, which wasn't a lot, but we actually did get something on air, which is pretty amazing. And that was the second part, which was sort of a nightmare, which I won't go into great detail. But all those stories that you hear about Hollywood, they're true.
Well, I remember when we did a cover story about you right before the TV show came on, and I was speaking with you quite a bit on the phone, so I was writing that piece.
Yeah.
And I remember at one point I was talking to you, and you're just like, I'm on set. Hang on for a second. Wow, Rudy Giuliani just walked right by. I was like, what's he doing on the set of Bad Girls Guide, you know?
Yeah. It was fun. We shot on Paramount Studios, which is a beautiful studio. It's one of the old, you know, it still looks like a classic old film studio, unlike some of the other ones that look very modern now. They sort of look like business parks. And there's a great view of the Hollywood sign. I can remember talking to you on the phone. I'd go out of my office and sit on the fire escape, which is where I could see the view of the Hollywood sign, and had many conversations out there on the fire escape. Never tempted to jump, but I'm sure other people have jumped from there. No, it's dicey. It's an industry that not only hires sort of damaged people, it rewards them. So a lot of people who are talented, but maybe not the most stable, shall we say, keep moving up and up and up and up. So there was a lot of recreational activity in the writer's room, I'll say. And I'm not just talking about eating red licorice for breakfast, although that happened too.
Well, that's fascinating, and there may be a book in that down the road. So when did the Paisley Hanover idea come to you, and was it always intended to be a series, so you'd see Paisley go through high school in different chapters?
Yes, it was. I was actually working on a different novel when I got a letter from a young editor at Dial Books who was a fan of the Bad Girls Guides, and she asked me if I had ever considered writing for a younger audience. And in fact I had, because so many teens and tweens would steal their mother's or their aunt's or their big sister's Bad Girls Guide and hole up in the bathroom reading things that frankly weren't that bad, but seemed like some good naughty fun. And I felt like there was definitely there was an audience there for the type of writing that I do, but I hadn't figured out exactly the right way to do it, and I wasn't sure that nonfiction books in that age are sort of like the kiss of death. It's kind of like a book written by a doctor about your body parts. You're like, no way, don't please, I don't want to read that or write that or be in this same section with that. So I was looking for a way to write for this audience and do something that was fun and creative. And my editor sent me this letter. I started thinking about it. I put the novel that I was working on aside, and literally in a week I had the name Paisley Hanover, which just kind of popped into my head one day, and the plot for the first book. And we went back to them and said, what do you think of this? So they said, we like it. How about 3 books worth? So I had a nice little multiple book deal, which was great, and an excellent editor to work with. And Paisley, the initial plan was Paisley would be there would be 3 books, and the first book would be her sophomore year, the second book her junior year, and the third book her senior year. I have a problem with time in the real world. I'm sort of like time deaf. Some people have like bad sense of direction, bad sense of time, no sense of time. All of Paisley's books take place in about a 4-month period in her sophomore year. So there's a lot going on.
It's a busy year.
Yeah, busy year. And I've heard people say, wow, there's a lot going on. A lot happens to Paisley, but it's also kind of accurate of the high drama and the, when you're 15, everything that happens matters so much. And honestly, it hasn't changed that much from when we were in high school. Just adding some text, a lot of texting, some Facebook references, a few YouTube references, and it's kind of like, good to go.
But the geography of a school campus is well sort of described in the Paisley Hanover books, and one thing I remember about Paisley Acts Up is that she's in the school library a lot.
Yes.
Since we're here in the beautiful new Walnut Creek Public Library, I'm curious if you can talk a bit about your experiences growing up and using libraries, and also now, how do you use libraries as far as using them for research or access to materials?
I love libraries. Who doesn't? When I was little, I can remember going to the Lafayette Library every week and checking out as many as you could. At a time, I think it was 12, which was like a big stack of books for a little kid to carry. And so that was a really big part of my childhood, and sort of reading a lot and opening my imagination. And I actually researched the Paranoid's Pocket Guide entirely at the San Francisco Public Library. This was sort of, I won't say pre-internet because that makes me sound like I'm really old, but it was, I needed to be there at the library because that was the best access to the information that I wasn't even sure what I was looking for. So it was all about the search and the exploration. And yes, a very important scene takes place in the school library in the Paisley Hanover series, and there's a really cool character who's one of the librarians, so it's sort of a nice homage to librarians who play such an important role. But I think libraries are such an important part of any community. They're like a gateway to endless adventures. And you know, if I were going to be holed up at someplace hiding from my parents, for example, I definitely want to do it at a public library. And this one looks great.
Yeah.
Lots of places to hide out here.
Walnut Creek and Lafayette, both of these libraries, I grew up coming to the former Walnut Creek Library and loving
Me
it
too,
because of
yeah.
its, you know, I remember checking out Matt Christopher's baseball books and the Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Christopher and all these geeky books that I would read. And the Lafayette one, they were just these tiny little shoe boxes of libraries, and now we have these amazing facilities, beautifully thought out with all the high-tech, you know, elements that are appropriate.
Well, they're really like a sanctuary, and I live in San Francisco now, so it's a bit of a trek for me to come out here, but I would absolutely, I can see myself, you know, throwing my laptop in the car or hopping on BART and coming out here just to be in the space to work, because you're surrounded by great light, great energy, great creativity, and it's such a comfortable and just a creative, safe place to be. So I dig it. I like this place. I'm coming back.
Good. Well, it's great to see you here in the new Walnut Creek Public Library, and it's always a treat to pick up your newest book, because you're such a funny and creative writer, and there's a real nice soul to Paisley Hanover. I really like her, and I want to see what she does next year in school. So congratulations on the success of this series. They're great books, great for young readers, and I read it by the pool and just thought it was a treat from start to finish, so I'm a 40-year-old man. Anyway, great to see you, Cameron Tuttle. And thanks for watching Get Lit. Make sure to tune in regularly, because we've got all sorts of fantastic Bay Area authors, and it's a really nice treat to get to know them and find out, you know, how they come up with these creative books. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Get Lit.